Welcome to Catalyst Conversations, the podcast where we spark powerful change in women's wealth. I'm Hadriana Leo, a wealth coach, counselor, and strategist, and each week we dive into the conversations, strategies, and stories that help women confidently create the life they've always dreamed of. So grab your favorite bevy, settle in, and let's get started on transforming your relationship with money. This is Catalyst Conversations, igniting change in women's wealth. Let's spark the conversation. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Catalyst Conversations, and welcome please my guest, Sherry Kwok. Sherry, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. I'm always excited to connect with you, and today is not an exception. So let's jump in.
Yes, let's jump in, and jump in we shall, because I asked Sherry for a phrase, a quote, or a saying. Okay, I always try to read this verbatim because it's really important that I properly reflect that sentiment. So before I read it, let me just say I'm going to be very transparent here that the only subject I've ever failed in my life, ever, not even gym, was arts and crafts. So this quote actually speaks to me because it's one skill set that I just missed out on. But I really appreciate art. Here's her quote: "Every financial decision you make is a brushstroke in the painting of your financial identity."
Hmm.
Needless to say, I am blown away. This thing has me seeing beautiful, brilliant colors. Sherry, what about this really speaks to you?
Mm. I think when people think about finances, they think about like there's a right or wrong way to do it. But
Mhm.
really, it's just our journey. And even if we make mistakes along the way, it enriches that painting, that picture. And the other key to it is we are actually the author of our financial identity. And I think a lot of people give up that power, and
Mm.
it's time to take it back.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of the brushstrokes. There's this flow to a
Mm,
brushstroke.
mm,
Every brushstroke is not always heavy. Every brushstroke is not always big and wide, and you don't always
mm,
use the big, brilliant, vibrant colors. A brush in the hands of an artist can create all kinds of, oh my gosh, I can go on and on about this. But I really love this quote, and I can imagine that in your role as an educator and a coach, you're probably having to take a very non-black and white approach to
mm.
finances. Would you agree?
I think as an educator, it's really important to meet people where they're at.
Right.
And as an adult, um, people expect and should themselves a lot, especially when it comes to finances. And it's really just wherever you are at, that's where we start. And I
Yes.
think it's important to give ourselves the grace to do that and not
Yes.
expect ourselves to be maybe further along or wherever we think we should be. We just need to meet ourselves where we're at. And that's really important to think about because if we don't do that, things don't move forward and it actually holds us back.
Yeah, it definitely holds us back. Well, you've probably heard it in the way she speaks and the language she's using. I'll tell you a little bit about Sherry. Sherry is a financial educator, financial empowerment educator, and coach. She sounds like me, doesn't she? Well, I'll tell you that Sherry and I are both proud AFCCs, and that is Accredited Financial Counselor in Canada. And we take that designation very seriously in how we do our work for our clients. Sherry is the founder and owner of Wealth Warrior Canada. And among other things, Sherry is a mompreneur, she is a caregiver, she is a wife, she is a coach, she's an educator, she's a lifelong learner, she is an eternal optimist, and she definitely likes to see the glass half full. In fact, I like to
Mhm.
see my glass overflowing. Thank you very much. only me, I live in overflow, but this is Sherry, and she is bringing all of that experience to our conversation today. I'm going to start with another area that we share similarities, Sherry, and you are an immigrant to Canada. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. M- my mom and I immigrated to Canada when I was 9, and like that definitely impacts like my financial identity and
yeah,
how I connect with money, as I'm
yeah.
sure it does with you as well.
100%. I remember actually a few years ago, I did like a four-part series at home in my childhood home in St. Lucia on how wealth kind of speaks to the immigrant experience. Being back home is always going back to my roots and, grounding myself again and striving for wealth in a system that was not created for you and no one's actually telling you about it and you're having to figure things out yourself. That was
Hmm.
a thing. So I did like a four-part series on wealth and the immigrant woman, but it's our experiences and part of what's informing how we do our work today. So tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing right now. Who are your clients and where are you serving currently?
Mm. Yeah, so had the honor to support over 400 Canadians nationwide. So I
Wow.
do work nationwide now. And predominantly I'm working with business owners and often women. And it's been such an honor to work with that demographic. And because I think the thing that I love wor- so much about entrepreneurs and business owners is that they're growth minded.
Mhm.
They know that they have to keep evolving and growing to help their business evolve and grow. And I love working with people who are growth minded and just ready for that challenge, like what's possible. Bring it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much of how we serve is impacted or is influenced by our own experiences because you are a multipreneur, if I can call it that. And you really enjoy your experiences in entrepreneurship. How was it for you? Was it super easy? Was it confusing? Was it hard? What was your entrepreneurial journey like?
I don't think it's super easy, not things that are worth it. I don't think it's easy all the time. So, and I think it's not always easy to keep pursuing growth and learning, but I love doing it. It kind of I love growing and learning and just exploring new ideas and new ways of doing things. So it's not always easy. The day-to-day stuff, you have to be consistent. You have to be committed. You have to do things that you don't want to do all the time because you
Yeah.
are your whole business. You have all the rules when you start out. And so it's not always easy, but there's definitely a lot of things about entrepreneurship that aligns with who I am. And I think that really helped me along the journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
And I mean, we've had conversations outside of this recording, and I can definitely see the impact. I can also see the fire. Look what I'm about to do here, Sherry, because
I see where you're going here.
I can definitely see the passion and the determination in doing what you do. And it's a perfect fit for our audience because we're all about catalyst conversations and that spark, that thing that sets you up to do something
Mm,
beautiful, it's like the perfect environment for amazing things to happen. And you and your partner are actively pursuing fire. Now, I know
mhm.
what it is, but some of our audience may not. Tell us what is FIRE.
So FIRE stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And it's actually a whole movement. A lot of people are doing this, and it's not an unrealistic goal. There's actually things that you can do and set yourself up to get on this path. But it does take work, it does take commitment, it does take um, uh, an intimate relationship with your money. You have to pay attention to it and take care of it quite intensively to be able to reach this goal. But it's something that my partner and I are. pursuing for us, yes, but for our daughter too,
Mhm.
and for our family, like our parents, to be
Yeah.
able to take care of them, and also for the community. So we want to be able to give back to the community so that financial literacy and education in general is more accessible to people, in Canada, but also in other places of the world. People who want to have this conversation of learning and growing should
Mhm.
have access to it. And that's why we're pursuing FIRE, because we want, to serve. We want to serve ourselves, our family, and our community. And essentially, whoever wants to access education, we want them to have that access.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be honest with you. A few years ago, I was introduced to the concept of fire. And during that introduction, I thought to myself, this is too extreme. It's
Mm,
very extreme. And in all fairness, it was the person that I was talking to. As I learned more, I came to understand the multitude, the myriad of ways that you can implement fire. How have you chosen to implement it for yourself? And then also, how do you communicate the variety of aspects of fire to people that you are working with who expressed interest, but not scare them like I was?
mm. I think one part of it, a comment that I get sometimes is, um, like, you're too young to retire. Like, what are you going to do after you retire? But
Right.
I think the definition of retirement is not like not working and not adding value. It's actually the opposite. I want to not worry about money, because money, I think, has such a big role in our society.
Mm-hmm.
We work to make money, but I don't
Yes.
want to work to make money. I want to work to add value, to serve,
Right.
right? So when I get that piece, when I've reached financial independence and get that out of the way, I'm actually pursuing my purpose. And that's to serve and add value and share and educate, in financial literacy, and help other people access education in other ways. So
Yeah.
it's not about retirement, and then, like, that's the period. And it's about retirement, expand, right? Now, what is possible? So I think
Right.
people get scared of the idea of retirement because it's a transition into the unknown, a transition to maybe, like, people have seen it as, you stop working.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that anymore. And then what? Right? You just
Yes.
kind of like wait on the other side. But retirement is about opening possibility. So I
Yeah.
just want to help people plant the seed to start reframing the definition of retire.
Yeah.
And I also, something else that you spoke about is, fire is not like a one path kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different kinds of fire, and
Right.
there are people who are really aggressively pursuing fire. So, like, uh, very much paying attention to expenses, uh, spending as little as possible,
Mhm.
and saving a lot of money. And when someone from the outside thinks about that, like, why would you want to live that way?
I know. I
Right?
wouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people do because they're really fueled by this idea of fire, and that's amazing. But that's not the only way to do fire. There's
Mm.
coast fire, where you literally just set yourself up in a financial system, and you coast to fire with your current saving amount. And
Right.
there is, like, there's fat fire, and, like, there's lots of different kinds of fire that people can pursue. It's not a one one size fit all kind of thing, right? So
Right.
that's the
Right.
second point. The first point is redefine fire. The second point is there's a different fire flavor, and you can choose your flavor. And then the third thing is, fire is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, in society, there is a path that we've been, socialized and programmed kind of into
Yeah.
following. So first you do the education thing, and then after the education thing, you go to school, you do the
Right.
school thing, and then maybe get the job and get married, have the kids, do the thing, buy a house, do the prescription things, right? So that's
Yes.
following the path of what society has set out for us. Fire is not on that path. Fire is
Hmm.
deviating from that path. And
Right.
so, does someone actually want to deviate from that path? If they don't want to deviate from that path, maybe fire is not for them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because fire is, you're going to be retired a lot earlier than a lot of your friends. And so
Right.
you might leave your like friends group. You might change, you might evolve, you know? And that's scary. So
Yeah.
fire is not for everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that because there are consequences to that determination, that focus, that prioritization. There are some things you're going to have to let go of along the way. And oftentimes, especially if there are people in your friends group that, cannot deal with your success or your determination or that focus, you may end up losing relationships along the way. And I'm really glad that you said that because I hadn't even thought about it. I'm like, everybody loves me, everybody's my friend, but it doesn't always correlate that as your
Mm-hmm.
experiences kind of move off in different tangents that you can maintain the relationship. I like that. I can appreciate that. And I think more people need to acknowledge that as a possibility and maybe make some fire friends, some other
Mm-hmm.
people to join your circle that
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the path that you're on. It's kind of like entrepreneurship or even motherhood or even marriage. I mean, if all your
Right.
friends are single, they don't get it when you whine about the thing and that thing, like why this drives you crazy. They don't get it,
Mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm.
So it's all of that that we can kind of take into consideration. But I dare say, Sherry, it's worth it, don't you think?
I think it's worth it if it's aligned with like who you are, you
Yes.
know, and if you're willing to go there. Not
Yeah.
everyone is willing to be open to that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
So it's also a matter of what people are ready for and
Yeah.
where they are on their journey, right? So, yeah, yeah, it's for me, 100%.
Hmm.
100%, 200%. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I was pursuing fire before there was fire. Because I've always, well, for a long time, I've been in this for a good long while now. And I redefined retirement for myself a long time ago for me. And I would teach that in workshops. Retirement is working because I want to, not because I have to.
Mhm.
It allows me to operate in my purpose more, and it allows
Mhm.
me to prioritize things not because I need the money, but because it's what I want to be doing. So that's been retirement for me for a while, and I can see how the work that you're doing, whether or not your clients adopt fire, but the work that you're doing is very much influencing how people will relate to money and how they're
Mhm.
going to use money intentionally. And I think that's a
Mhm.
big deal. So tell me a little bit about some of the tools that you're using. How does let's say how does belief and perception fall in with what you're teaching and how you're teaching your clients?
Mhm. I want to tell you a story.
Yes,
So it's a
please. I'm
story
gonna
about
get
my,
comfortable.
yes, please do. So I grew up in a factory in the Philippines, and
Okay.
it's a it's a it's a light it's a huge factory, and it's very noisy, and I have this memory of when I was 5 years old, and I would wake up to these monstrous sound, and it was like thug 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 thug
Oh
thug
my
thug,
gosh, that's a
and
nightmare.
and I would be alone because my mother works in the factory. So I would look around, and then I'd wander out of our living poor living area and
Mm-hmm.
wander around in the factory. This factory is a factory that my family once owned. So my grandpa built an empire. He built he owned properties, he owned factories. He was a very successful business owner,
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, and he when he passed away, my grandma didn't know anything about money.
Mm-hmm.
And so she literally she's very giving. She likes to
Oh,
share.
oh
So she
boy.
literally gave all the money away.
Oh, my heart just dropped.
Yeah. Yeah. So in less than a year, my family literally went from riches to rags.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's something. And this happened when you were about 5 or 6, did it?
It happened before I arrived. We were already so my mom worked in the factory,
Mm-hmm.
and she was the manager of the factory. So
Right.
they allowed her to actually live. There was a living space in the factory, so they
Got
allowed
it.
her and me to live in that space. But that at that time, my family no longer owned that factory.
Wow, that must have been quite something for, I guess, maybe not so much your grandmother, but your mom would literally have lived through the rags to riches at a time when she was probably expecting to inherit and build and
Mm,
grow. She saw her whole life ahead of her.
yeah.
How did that experience inform what your perception was of wealth? How did that speak
Mm.
to how you were interacting with money as a child and then a young adult and an adult?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, there are money traumas that we go through. Like, we have money wounds from our lifetime, but we
Hmm.
also have money wounds from past lifetimes, past
Hmm.
generations that's passed
Right.
down to us. Because how we talk about money is how our family talks about money gets passed down to us. And
Yes.
we keep that into our brain and then we hold on to it and we're like, okay, we're going to use this thing now to make decisions
Right.
about my financial world, and we just hold on to it. And at some point, it doesn't serve us.
Right. Definitely. And you, to be honest, and I speak about this in my book, you are writing your own story. Like
Mm,
you, there is your life and your story. Yes, we are
mm-hmm,
influenced by the generations before us, but the pen is still in our hand, right, to write the pages that are currently blank. So
mm-hmm,
essentially you had to choose your beliefs and perceptions about money outside of what you were being shown, outside of the experiences that others had that was influencing you. How was that?
mm-hmm. And I love the name of your podcast because there really needs to be like those moments of catalyst, those
Mm-hmm.
moments of change that happens along the way. So I was fortunate enough that those moments happened for me and put me on a different path. Because if
Right.
I wasn't aware and open to those possibilities, then I wouldn't be able to find another path. But
Right.
like having debt, so like when I went through university, I had to pay for my own education, and
Mm-hmm.
I came out of that with $30,000 of debt.
Wow.
So that in like that experience, I could have chosen to bring me down,
Mm-hmm.
or I could choose for it to help me grow. Because
Yes.
these things in life are given to us to for the world to test us.
Right.
Do you want more, or like what is the choice you're going to make here? So
Yeah.
all of those challenges is actually an opportunity, and it's so hard in that moment to see it as that, but if you hold on to it, if you take it on,
Mm.
it helps you level up, right? But
Yes.
all of those experiences are, they're so hard, right? I've supported people going through them. I've gone through them and they don't feel very good at that moment. But
Right.
out of all of those adversity rises advantages for us.
Right. Definitely. I love that because I think when we can inform our beliefs and our perceptions, when we can choose what we believe and ensure that it serves us, then we have the opportunity to determine the behaviors and the habits that we build.
Yeah.
Because now we have made choices with intention here
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
our minds. I have to stop pointing at things because there are some people who are just listening to this podcast. But we've made decisions about our beliefs and perceptions in our minds and in our
Mm.
hearts. We've
Mhm.
sought out alignment. Now we need to embody that,
Mm.
embody those beliefs with our behaviors and our habits. Tell me more about
Mm.
that.
Yeah, so it works both ways. When you have uh like I very much have, I still have it. But I, my predominant belief before was money is scarce, because that's what I saw all
Mhm.
my life, and
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what people told me as I was growing up. And that's, they weren't like trying to sabotage me or anything like that. They just saw that as their reality,
Yeah.
as anyone would growing in that situation, right? So those beliefs really informs what I think about money. Like money
Right.
is scarce. And how do I feel about money because money is scarce? Well, I guess it's around, but like, do I really have to pay attention to it that much? Right.
Mhm.
And then what that does is my actions with money is, a lot of things that I see with people doing is they're ostriching, right? They're just not paying attention to their money because it's too hard. It doesn't make
Right.
them feel good. They don't think very positive things about their money. And so why not ostrich? This is an
Mhm. Mhm.
escape, right?
Right.
So it informs that circle, about how we feel about money, and then what we think about our money and what we do. And sometimes this is so ingrained, we've done this so many times, that this is just our automatic subconscious programming.
Yeah.
We don't
And we
even think
don't,
about it.
yeah, and we don't see the opportunities to exit the cycle,
Mm,
right? Because
mm,
the opportunities to come, like you said, you saw that there was a different path, that the opportunity was there to do something different. But
mhm.
if we're ostriching, we're not seeing opportunities. We're just
No.
blindly following the cycle like a revolving door. So, what you're sharing essentially is, would you say that it starts with mindset? Would you agree? Or does it start with something else? Or that catalyst needs to first inform your mindset? Tell me more.
I think people are ready for change when they're ready for change.
Yeah.
So people could be like, I don't know if you've heard of the theory of change, but it's like going from um, surviving
Mhm.
to thriving. So
Right.
where are they on that spectrum? Because if they're more on this side, it's really hard to be like, what are you talking about? That's not even in my realm of possibility. So this conversation is actually maybe pretty triggering for that person.
Right.
So is
Right.
it worth it to pursue that, or is there another like like a little seed that could be planted to help them shift a little
Mhm.
bit more so that they're ready to do that transformation?
Right, right. Yeah, definitely. That spectrum can be quite wide,
Mhm.
depending on a person's experiences, depending on their capacity, depending on
Right.
just the circumstances around which they are managing money, dealing with money, and everything else in their lives. So I can appreciate that for everybody. This could look
Mhm.
quite different.
It could look
And
very different. Yeah.
giving people permission to have that unique experience with money,
Mhm.
because Everyone's not going to do it the same way. Although that's kind of what society has programmed us to think, that,
Right.
one plus one is two, and that money is black and white. It really is
Mm-hmm.
not. So,
No.
what would you say to the person who is now conscious? They are aware of the opportunity to do something different. What
Mm-hmm.
is the next step?
Yeah, I think the next step is the first step is to really figure out what is your money mindset. So
Hmm.
what is it that you tell yourself all the time about money, right?
Right.
So some of the common things is money don't grow on trees.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't afford that, right? So think about those scripts that you use all the time to make your financial decisions. And then once you have that, the second step is, does that serve you?
Yeah.
Does that does that help you reach your financial goals?
Right.
Sometimes people want to save, um, I don't know, like $1,000 for their emergency fund, or they want to go
Mhm.
on a trip, so they want to save $5,000, or they want to give back and donate a certain amount of money. It doesn't matter how much the money is, but does your mindset right now support you in achieving your goal? And if the answer
Right.
is yes, then amazing. Maybe you don't have to change anything. But if the answer is no, the next question, the third step is rewrite your money script. We talked about being that artist at the beginning of our
Yep.
call. And so now is your time to put another brushstroke on that painting and say,
Hmm.
this is what I'm going to stand for.
Right.
This is who I am. This is my financial identity. And maybe right now I don't feel it. It feels
Hmm.
untrue for me, but you got to start. And your
Yeah.
start is your money script. What is that one thing that you tell yourself um, when things are hard, when
Yeah.
you're making a financial decision? And of course, you've been doing this cycle all this time with the other script, and that's your automatic subconscious programming. But it's being aware when that turns on and you're like, nope, I'm not going to choose that today. I
That's
am going
right.
to step into this new one, because
Yeah.
this new one is going to get me to where I wanted to go.
Yeah, definitely. I call them interrupters. So
Mm,
when I'm working with clients, we put things in that will trigger a stop, that
mm,
will, when you, for example, one of the things we do is, if a client, for example, is triggered to spend, whatever the experience is, the trigger hits and the subconscious action is to whip out the card and swipe it. We would create a little card that is the exact same size as their debit or credit
oh,
card, fits right in front. So the moment they go to enact the behavior, before they can reach their debit card, they have to encounter this other card. And on that card, we usually would put on something that they're a dream or a desire or a
oh,
goal that is really innately tied to them, something that they want almost viscerally.
mm,
So that for them to choose to follow through with that behavior, they have to be aware that it may come at the cost of the goal. So putting those interrupters there along the behavior pathway enables them to consciously choose. I mean, you might need to swipe the card for your groceries. That's okay. But how are you going to determine what's on the grocery list? Or is
mm.
it going to just be reactionary? So I love the idea of breaking the patterns, interrupting the cycles. And there are so many tools available. What's a tool that you use? Because I know you
Mm.
have a whole set of tools that you're using as well. What's a tool that you use with some of your clients?
Yeah, I think those physical interrupters, as you call them, is really, really important. And that one that you put in the card is a really good one. And
Mhm.
I love how you added like their goals onto it.
Yep.
So that's brilliant. I think what I like to do when that situation comes up is I really try to pay attention. This is my education background coming through, um, to how they like to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So some people are very visual, some people are auditory, some people are kinesthetic.
Yes.
So, or maybe they need all of them, right? If this pathway is really strong for them, and it depends on what they relate with. But the physical one is really, really good for
Mm-hmm.
breaking spending.
Yeah.
So a physical interrupter like the card, but also, like coffee. People like to go for coffee in the morning. So
Yes.
maybe instead of going down your usual route where you pass Tim Hortons or Starbucks or whatever, you plan out a different route so you don't even get close to those places.
Yeah, you don't even smell the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yep.
that's one way. Another way is like with groceries, there's a lot of temptations in the store. So
Mm-hmm.
like using an app to purchase, to get exactly what you need. You never set foot on the store. You just do your grocery shopping right on your phone, and you can get it delivered to your door. You do have to pay an extra fee for that, but you can also go there for a pickup, and a lot of the pickup options are free depending on when you pick up. So you can
Mm-hmm.
really control what you're spending on your phone, because on your phone, it's not like the store where you walk in and you're like, ooh, look at all the candy in the candy aisle. We're in the chip aisle now. Okay, ice cream, yes, or like whatever cosmetics, everything, you don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yes.
you can scroll in different categories, or much better is you have a list in front of you.
Yeah.
You type the list into it so it searches exactly for apples, and all you will see is apples. uh,
Yes. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. So like take away the temptation, or like put something that interrupts your behavior physically so you can't
Mm-hmm.
even access that.
Yeah. It helps to simplify. It helps to simplify the mess of change.
Mhm.
And it helps to, I think it helps to create a positive feedback loop,
Mm.
because we've been through the disappointment of really wanting to do the new thing, being committed to doing the new thing and not getting results.
Yeah.
When you have a positive feedback loop, you get to celebrate, every win, every move in the positive direction. So I can
Mhm.
absolutely see how clients would benefit from that. Tell me this: you're working with a client, and this is me pulling it out of the hat. You're working with the client who does not have spending as the issue. They're already very frugal. They're
Mm.
already very aware of the limitations, of where their money can go. So that person is actually not a big spender. They may not be suffering with debt, but they're still not able to get the life that they want out of their money. How do you use your beliefs, perceptions, behaviors, habits? How do you put that together to help this person?
Mm. Mhm. So I think it's really important to ask about why.
Mm,
And the why question is really digging into their values.
yes. Yes.
So you ask them about their goals, and they give you an answer about their goals. Usually that goal is very superficial.
Yep.
So you press on and you
Yes.
say why. You go to the next level. And then they give you another answer that might be a little bit deeper than this one, but it's not it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not it. You ask again, you go deeper.
Yeah.
I've sometimes gone 7 levels deep with clients, but sometimes I also stop at three, depending on how they're doing. But I
Right.
like 3 levels deep is usually where you start getting somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, you start finding out like why this really matters to them. And what
Mm-hmm.
that points to is their values.
Yes. Yes. And
And
using their money with that intention to align with values.
Yeah, yeah. And then you work it up, and we rework that financial goal that they first told me about in the first level. And now we're
Mhm,
going to say, we're going to back that goal up with this value. So, how do you
mhm.
level up that goal so it expresses this value even more?
Yes, I love that. I love that because now you're tying the behavior, you're tying the outcome to something that is internally stimulated, not
Mm-hmm,
externally stimulated.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Very good. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I am so thrilled that you took the time to share with us today. I believe that in having these conversations, we we've given someone the opportunity to view their finances through a different lens, perhaps through a more hopeful lens. So,
Yes.
how would you encourage the person who might be a little daunted, maybe a little, scared by the idea? They kind of want to do it, but they're scared about what it would entail. How would you invite that person into the process?
Mm, yes. I want to take us back to that quote at the beginning
Yes. Hmm.
of the of our talk. So every financial decision you make is a brushstroke in the painting of your financial identity.
Hmm.
And so I want them to think right now what they're doing is they're creating a brushstroke. It's
Right.
one little step, one tiny step,
Hmm.
so small. But all those tiny steps over time creates this masterpiece,
Right.
right? So it's just a one step you need to take today. You don't
Hmm.
have to know the masterpiece now. You just have to take that one step, that one
Right.
brushstroke. That's it. That's it.
Hmm.
And
That's
then
beautiful.
celebrate. You've done it. You've done the one step. You've got this. Set yourself up for success, then you will want more of that, right?
Hmm.
You want to keep motivating and encouraging yourself to succeed
Yes.
because you can do
Yes.
it. You can do it. You can do it. You just need one step, one step.
Yeah. You know what? Unlike my experience with arts and crafts, that masterpiece that we each get to build, it is going to be beautiful no matter what, as long as we intentionally apply the brushstrokes. So
Mm.
I'm really loving this, and I think it's a perfect way to wrap up our conversation today. Sherry, how are people finding you? Where can people get more of that beautiful wisdom that you shared with us today? Tell us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for this conversation. I so appreciate it. It just fuels my soul. I love connecting with you always. And people can find me on my website, wealthwarriorcanada.ca, and right there they could actually book an appointment to chat with me. And we just go through a free financial checkup, and I just want to add value to you. So book that call. People can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. So please come and join, come and follow. And I would love the chance and be so honored to have the opportunity to support you on your journey. So yeah, come and connect.
Awesome, awesome. Listen, I know the backbone of what Sherry is offering as an also an AFCC. I know her fiduciary responsibility. I can vouch for the knowledge she has, but getting to know Sherry, I can vouch for the heart behind her work.
Mm,
So, if anything she has shared today resonates with you, she is not my competitor, she is my colleague. So, if it resonates and this is what you need, go find Sherry. And together, she and I will talk about the awesome things we're doing, helping to empower the world to be
mm.
really good with their and intentional with their finances. So thank you, Sherry. Thank you very much. And to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of Catalyst Conversations. Be sure to look in the description. I've got lots of free material there for you to download, and you can find Sherry's contact. So until next time, see you later. Take care. Thank you for joining me today on Catalyst Conversations. I hope this episode sparked something powerful to help on your journey to building wealth confidently and unapologetically. If you loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if something resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep moving toward your goals, stay empowered, and continue sparking change on your wealth journey. This is Hadriana, and you've been listening to Catalyst Conversations.